Laurel Grove School actually began in the 1800s, and the story didn't get uncovered until around 2000. My family owned 23 acres of land in the Frank County area, and the school was actually located at 6840 Beulah Street. But in 1999, my family decided to sell the property that we had because family members were elderly and were going to move in with my husband and I. And the developer that we sold to were the Freed Company in Springfield, Virginia. And they had been developers, commercial developers in Fairfax County for about 30 years. And when we did the letter of intent to sell the property, a title search was begun. And Barbara Freed called me up and she said, Phyllis, she says, I got to talk to you. We did the title search, and she says, we found out that one of the buildings on the property had been a one-room school. And I said, yeah, I knew that when I was growing up. And she says, well, there's a story there. She said that 13 of the 23 acres was purchased in 1860 by William Jasper. She said, do you know who he was? And I said, yeah, he was my great-grandfather. So she says, well, we're going to preserve the school. Actually, the school was sold by auction in 1954, and my father's oldest sister, Alma Bushrod, and her husband had bid it in. The county sold it, and they were the successful bidders. So they had turned it into a little cottage. Believe it or not, it had 2 bedrooms, kitchen, bathroom, and a combined living room and dining room, located right on Beulah Street, traffic passing. And Keith knows about that because Keith lives right down the street. Most people did not know that it had been a one-room school. But anyway, the developers did renovate the school. They went to North Carolina. They found the wood for the floor, to repair the floor. The person who had changed it, the contractor who had changed it into a one-room school, who had changed it into a little house, he lived down the street on Beulah Street also, and he said, all you have to do is go in and take down the drywall and you'll find the original walls to the school. So today we do actually have those original walls. But once the developer got it renovated, we needed to know what the story was and how we were going to use this building. We formed the Laurel Grove School Association, and we had business owners, family members, teachers in the area. We had this wonderful board of 14 people, none of whom were historians, none of whom were museum curators. So we decided to go to New York and find an expert museum curator. He joined our team, and we got Ira Berlin and a graduate student from Maryland University. Ira had written several books on slavery and African American history, and so he joined our team, and the research was begun. We found out that there were 8 former students who had gone to the school, and 2 of them were actually living with me. And I'll tell you a little bit more about them later on. But what we uncovered was that the school was begun by former slaves. William Jasper, as I mentioned, was the one who had deeded the land for the school. And this is William Jasper here, my great-grandfather, and this is his wife, his second wife, Georgiana Jasper. When the school was, they felt that they needed to have a school because they needed to educate their students, their children. And these children were the first children, we called the first children born through freedom. William and some of his friends, Middleton Braxton, George Carroll, and Thornton Gray, got together and decided that they would build a school. The half-acre of land that the school was on was deeded to the Mount Vernon School District. It was Mount Vernon at that time. Today it's the Lee District. And so they got together, and George Carroll had over 282 acres of land, and so they cut trees and made logs and wood they needed to build a school. And they were able to bring in their children and educate them. But education was important for them. They actually deeded the land for the school in 1881. And for some of you, you know that there was a church, Laurel Grove Baptist Church, which was right next door to the school. That land was deeded in 1884. That was also a half-acre land deeded by William and Georgiana Jasper. But we know that when they built the school, they also worshipped in the school. And now let me tell you a little bit about what those former students told us. They actually came in after we got the building renovated, and they told us what kind of seats they had. And so you'll see the furniture that we furnished it with. We actually went to antique shops in Fredericksburg to locate those student desks. They told us that they had blackboards that were made out of just wood and painted black. And so we had a board member whose husband actually created the blackboards that we have there today. And then there was a potbelly stove. And Barbara Freed wanted a true replica of the stove that those former students told us. So Barbara went to Pennsylvania and found a potbelly stove, which we have in the center of the building. And then they told us what a typical day of going to that school was like. School was from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. They had recess, and they also had to bring their lunch. They also had to start the fire. They also had to go and get the water. The water came from a nearby spring. There was no, Houston mentioned that there was a well with a pump. We didn't have that. We had a nearby spring. So that was a typical day. And one of the students that we interviewed, Marguerite Giles, her family lived off of Rolling Road. And if you're familiar with Fairfax County Parkway and Rolling Road, that's where she lived. And she and her sister and her cousin walked to Laurel Grove School. And to kind of put that in perspective, Laurel Grove School is located near the Franklin Springfield Parkway and Bueller Street. So it was a pretty good walk. Marguerite said, and she lives today in Dale City, and she says that today she does not use an umbrella because you had to go to school no matter what the weather was. So rain, sleet, snow, she went to school. And I think she said it was over 5 miles that she was walking one way to get there. But she said that she felt that she got a very good education from going there. She wasn't able to go on to high school because her parents didn't have the money to send her. For them to go, the students that we interviewed, for them to go to high school, they had to catch the train and go into D.C. And I mentioned earlier that George Carroll had 200